All right. Volume
All
still
right.
sounds all right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unless
I
you're
think it
like,
sounds good.
unless you plan on getting loud.
I don't know. Probably not.
All
I
right.
brought
So,
some weed just in case.
there you
Oh,
go.
sweet.
All right, we live,
My
baby.
guy. Yeah, we're
What's up,
live.
Corpse? I never actually I met or talked to you before. I've only seen you
Yeah,
peripherally. Oh no,
yeah.
I did meet you before. No,
When?
maybe I'm making it up. I'm thinking about when you gave me this shirt and the collab shirt in your backyard. I never took home.
Oh yeah, yeah. That shit got fucked up too, bro.
Hell yeah, I need me another one.
Yeah, I got you. I gotta get you
Oh
one.
my god.
I gotta get you nice and drippy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so dude, for people who are going to be hearing from you for the first time on the channel, give them a brief, rundown of who you are.
Damn. Here's the
What's
introduction.
yeah, your intros, man.
I mean, I
What's
don't
your
have much of an
pronouns?
introduction. You know what I'm saying? Constradamus on all platforms, purveyor of straight nonsense, dog. I'm about that top notch fuckery. I'm only here to offer a couple cents. You know what I mean? Maybe here and there, and hopefully just try and keep us on course. I know that different personalities and people that come from different worlds and have different ideas and communicate differently. Super easy to get deep in the weeds, and I think this guy just appreciates my ability to kind of like hone in on what the actual topic at hand is and to kind of, I don't know, dissect it in a way I think is beneficial to everybody. And that's just by nature something I think I do really well. So I'm happy to listen to you guys fuck around and talk about some shit and see what's good.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
nice, bro. It's nice. So, for more context, Gabe and I have known each other since we were like fucking 14 years old, 15 years old, something like that. And one of the dopest rappers in San Diego. Uh, like
When he
watch
raps.
watching him rap is fucking insane, insane as fuck, bro. Like watching him live.
You used to bang some of his joints out your car, and
Nice.
I think,
Probably,
I think you were playing a joint by him. It had to be 2015.
probably. I mean, I've been playing Gabe's music for a long time. I've got merch. I've got CDs still.
That was a good year
Uh,
too. That was the year we actually got nominated for best hip hop album from San Diego Music Awards. Our album came out in 2015. That was when I was
Our,
like super doing shit.
our album, who's our?
My buddy who DJs and produced all the beats
Okay.
for that project that we did was called Welcome to the World of. That was the first like official like debut album that I had put out and had like a bunch of people work on it, sick ass artwork and dropped like t-shirts and all that stuff. But and our we didn't end up winning. Our friend took the win, but it was cool because we got to just like go out to this real ceremony where all these people that some of which I had never even heard of before. So it was interesting seeing like that kind of just like that world and how people get nominated for what and who's really doing stuff. And it was cool just to be like, just to have our hat thrown in. And I didn't submit to it. So literally someone submitted on our behalf, like listened to our shit and was like, I'm going to go submit this to SDMA. So even just to be like, just to get the nod and to just like have the acknowledgement was super dope.
That's
yeah.
dope.
So rapper, one of my best friends, one of my brothers. Remember how last week we were talking about like if we were to win the lottery, and I said my circle would each get 5 mil at least. This is one of them. This is one of the 5 mil takers right
Hell
here.
yeah.
My guy.
So yeah, well, just and like you said, man, this guy has just the insane ability to just listen to what people are saying and talking about. And normally when people get into a rut and they start kind of talking back to each other and saying the same shit over and over, it's because there's a misunderstanding somewhere along the lines. Like Gabe lets it get to that point, and then he's like, well, yeah, like 20 minutes ago when you said this shit, like this is how you meant it. And then it's like, oh, okay, here's a resolution to this conversation. So it's
Hmm.
nice to have him around sometimes, except for when you're drunk. Update, I'm not drinking for the next 2 months. So
Oh, let's go.
no
What's the
more drink.
cost?
Just gotta get my mind and body right. So sometimes you just gotta take a little, when that's my vice, I gotta get rid of it for a bit. So
Yeah, yeah. Dude, even
Yeah.
myself, bro, I've been trying to stay out of the bars, like Sunday ritual, especially if, there's no kiddos around and it's like Sunday ritual is go to Yard House, have a beer, chat with everybody, talk shit. And I'm like, now I go to Barnes and Noble.
have yourself a nice latte.
bro, having me a nice little coffee, drinking me a little, drink a little sip, have a little book read, and bro, it is definitely a different dynamic that I've noticed when you change your surroundings like that. It's a really big, like, the conversation is so much different, and like the pressure of conversation is so much different. And
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, now that we've got the special guest intro out of the way, welcome to another episode of the Usual Tuesdays. We don't have Damien today, but I know Davian is out there watching. He's celebrating some time with his family. So, but he's out there watching. So we've got a nice gentleman to sit in his place for the day. And I don't know if you know this, cause, but what we do on the show is each week we each pick a different topic to bring up, and then we discuss it for about 2 hours, and we just let it kind of free flow. The topic doesn't necessarily need to be that for the whole duration of the show, but this week is Korps's turn, and I think he's got a good one for us today. We chatted about it a little bit earlier, but typically we don't know what the topic is until day of, so that way it's like all fresh, no time to prep for the two others. So with that being said,
that's the way to do it.
Go ahead, Korps. Floor is yours, brother.
And real quick, would you rather me address you as Cause or?
Yeah, Cause is perfect.
Cause is good. All right, cool. So
we're gonna call him Pon, bro. The purveyor of nonsense.
Yeah, dude, I like that. That's a cool name. But so I'm kind of piggybacking off of the discussion we had last week because it was thick and it felt good to have that type of talk with the broskies. And we had to talk about grief, right? And I think it's something healthy that we ought to talk about more often, especially us men. There's somebody named Albus Dumbledore who came in YouTube and said I was just called the N-word on the street. It's official. I have weirdos in the YouTube chats. But anywho,
you made it.
He made it. Albus Dumbledore made it.
My guy. They must know I'm fucking Slytherin house, bro. Tom Riddle. But one thing I've been seeing a lot on Twitter, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But they on Twitter's gotten into a space, right, where I don't know what's up with my algorithm, but it's like very therapeutic right now, which has been fun. Because I see a lot of people talk about healing, right? And so if you were to say I'm healing from something, or if there's something that you're healing from currently, right? Like what is it? If you guys don't mind sharing, what is something that you're healing from? And when did you recognize that it was something that needed to be worked on? Right? Because I think healing it starts with a choice to do it. Like, like to kind of like take those steps. So when did you recognize that was something you needed to heal from? So what's something you're healing from? And when did you recognize that you need to heal from it?
You want to go first?
I mean, the floor is yours if you want it, baby.
No, I'll talk forever. I got all day. I just arrived. You know what I'm saying?
All right. I mean, yeah, I'll go first. This is actually a really interesting question for me because at this point in my life right now, like I don't really feel like I'm healing from any. Like I feel like I'm consistently healing throughout because healing means you're consistently getting better, right?
I was like, I can give you a bulleted list right now of stuff you're healing from.
But I mean, overall, I don't think there's anything dire that I've like grieved or felt the need to be like, oh yeah, this needs to change. So I'm doing it and healing in this way. I think it's been consistent for me for like at least the past 10 years where, I always preach it to you. I always preach it to Cause. I preach to everybody, bro. Like love is love, man. This the way that we go about treating each other and doing things the way that we do. Because there was like a point in my lifetime where I was just a straight dickhead. You know what I mean? Not only to like people around me, but like to women that were around me, to family, shit like that. So it's like that is just somebody had to knock me on my ass for me to be like, oh fuck, I need to grow from this, and I guess essentially heal from it. There was a lot of conversations during that time that were about how I felt unappreciated, and maybe it was like something that I put upon myself to make myself feel unappreciated. You know what I mean? Unappreciation for
Unappreciated with what?
myself. Well, just things that I thought that I was doing for people,
Mm,
showing up to things that I thought I was showing up to when it
not feeling
was.
seen.
What was that? Say again?
Like not feeling seen. Like your
Yeah,
efforts
like
aren't being
yeah,
seen.
like yeah, exactly. Like my effort, the things that I thought I was actually doing for people were like shit that were already expected to be done, and it was like I wasn't going above and beyond to what I should be doing. You know what I mean? Whereas like
Mhm.
now, I just want to be consistent in the way that I am with people, everybody that's around, and even if it's like getting off the phone with somebody and telling them I love them and shit like that, because we lose people way too frequently. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm going to a
Ignore that. That was for me. I didn't mean to hit
okay,
enter.
yeah, no worries. Like I'm going to a funeral on the 4th. Like we just lost somebody else, so it's just been a lot. But I think that healing is essential in all parts of life, and I feel like you're consistently healing throughout time. I don't think you're ever like I don't think you're ever I don't think you're ever not healing. You know what I mean? But as of right now, I'm very so much at peace with myself and the way that my life is right now. There's things that could be better, but I don't think that they tie in with like healing or grieving of any sort.
Hey,
For
love
me
you, Damo.
personally.
Love you, Damo. Damo is here in spirit. He's in the YouTube chat.
That's our
My
third. That's our
God.
third, by the way.
Young
And he
Damien.
is definitely a top. He
Big
is
shoes to fill, man. Thanks for having me.
my guy. What about you? What about you?
Uh, I agree. It's an interesting question, and I think part of my struggle with even, I mean, I can answer like on the front end about like what am I currently grieving over, and um, that's more of an obvious thing that I had chosen. So as far as the when did you realize it? I mean, it was just after tragedy struck, right? Like it was pretty consequential of like what was occurring at the time, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But um, when you're talking about, I guess what your answer would be, and immediately I'm like crippling anxiety, fucking sleep apnea, which like not being able to sleep obviously has like a culminates in like a certain level of mental stress. And so there's all these other things that you're suffering for elsewhere in your life that are like having a negative impact on other aspects of your life. And
It's snowballing.
yeah. And so I just wonder if that's something. It's interesting the way that you compartmentalize, being okay and like not really needing to heal from anything specific and having done so much work in these other areas of your life that you feel like you're okay. And for the last, decade, when really I know that that's like stuff that you struggle with on the daily. So it's kind of interesting to see like the distinction that you draw between what Korpsx is describing and like your experience with that.
Oh, you're talking about me personally?
Yeah, you.
I'm over
Yeah.
here thinking to myself like, damn, this motherfucker is hitting my shit on the.
He is going in right now, bro. Wow.
But yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, you're right. You're right. Like, I didn't start thinking about that stuff until you genuinely like just started listing off those things, and I'm like, wow, I completely forget that we're going through the same type of shit, and then I'm over here and I'm like, oh shit, you're talking about me. Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like the lack of sleep, there's been so many times that Gabe and I have like been somewhere, and he knows how my sleep is. It's fucking horrible. I sound like I'm dying. I can't catch a breath. I don't sleep very well. Like my anxiety is horrible, bro. I mean, we went on a whole trip to Texas together, and it was like the whole time was like a fucking panic attack, and I couldn't sleep. And I was
wild,
just
bro.
it was just crazy.
I've never heard somebody sleep like that, bro. I've had all kinds of snoring ass friends, bro. This fool was choking on his tongue, bro, and like,
and I can't help it, bro.
So, like waking himself up so frequently, he's never really asleep. But that fool will be snoring, and you'll be like, "This fool is slump right now," and then you'll be like, "Yo," he's like, "What's up?" And I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude?"
I mean, a lot of people don't know that about me. Like, I don't sleep because I genuinely can't sleep. And that's like what my addiction with like prescription pills and fucking NyQuil and all that shit and drinking. Like that's why I do that.
Yeah,
like that's
100%.
why I drink, is so that I can sleep. I don't drink because I mean I genuinely do like drinking, but I drink because it helps me go to sleep. Like especially after the podcast, like I'll have a White Claw or two right next to my bed so that I can drink them so I can go to sleep.
Ooh.
It's not for the sake of like now we get into like the demon side of things, right? But yeah, I mean, it's not for the sake of like relaxing a lot of the times. I mean, when I'm out with with my boys and shit, it is, but at home, like I don't like getting drunk by myself, bro. But it's how I sleep and how I feel like I'm rested in the morning.
So, and I'll see, I might have a bit of a struggle, like keeping everything in line with what I'm thinking right now, but it's interesting because, so put a pin in that idea, right? Is like you thinking that, you can't identify something immediately that you're healing from. While then like us talking about all these things, it's like all of a sudden you have a realization that like, oh, I guess I could categorize these things that do qualify as things that I could need healing from. The tragedy that I was speaking to earlier is like, I had a fucking dog since I was 17 that we just put down because he just was fucking old, and like we think he had a stroke or something that happened like in the middle of the night, and I happened once prior, and he like quickly recovered over the next couple of days and like got real back to normal, and like so he had, he was an older dog, so we knew some things were going on, but this last thing that happened, it just wasn't fucking good, and he wasn't getting any better, and so we took him to the vet, and they just told us straight up, like, it is what it is. Like, he seems mildly uncomfortable, and he's not going to get better. And so we had to put him down. And
my condolences, man.
I appreciate it. And we've been talking about it for some years leading up because he's 14 and a half. Save has always had fucking dogs. It's something that me and him talk about pretty periodically, and had talked about like the impending fact that he was going to die, but it was like, something that we just would like to put off for as long as possible. And it's one time in my life, as logical as I am, I'm like, I have the most unrealistic like optimism and beliefs, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's gonna live forever, like they're gonna figure some shit out, whatever the case. And of course everything that lives fucking dies, and he had to fucking go, and it fucked with me like a lot. And I knew it was gonna fuck with me, and we talked about what a like big deal it was gonna be, but I didn't anticipate like what I couldn't have known. And I've had other dogs growing up too, but they weren't like my dog, you know what I mean? Like, that dude was my dog. Like, I got him, he was fucking fit in the palm of my hand, and like, lived with me from the time he was like 2-3 months. And like I said, now I was 17, I'm fucking 32 now. Like, that, he's been with me for a lot of life. Like, he's been with me through some shit, through some moves, through some breakups, through some fucking mental episodes. Like, I mean, he's seen me act like a fucking psycho before, and just unconditionally has always had my back. And so it was crazy. It was the craziest fucking feeling. And I got to be there with him, like literally while they fucking hit him. They hit him with 2 doses. The first is like just to like chill him out. And the second thing is like an overdose of pain meds. And I mean, he's literally in my fucking arms, like, sitting up when the fucking doctor came in, and like, he knew what was up, and they fucking dosed him, and he's just like there. And so he just like collapsed into my arms, and I just fucking laid there until he's just fucking gone. Like, he's not breathing anymore. It was fucking crazy. And I had been there for another one of our dogs that had passed away, like just from old age in the backyard. And it was sad, and it wasn't fun, but it was like, it just was different. Like, it didn't hit me like that. Like, I really was just like, I'd never experienced the kind of loss that was. So my dad died when I was 8 years old. I didn't know him really well. We've had fucking, now at this point, unfortunately, it's like, we're not that old. We're barely made it past a quarter century, and I can count, not even on one hand anymore, all the fucking friends that we've had that either suicide or fucking got into an accident or some shit, or OD'd on something. And so I'm like, I relate to the feeling of loss, but I had never experienced loss in this way before. And it just feels like a fucking void was just created in the entirety of the universe, and like nothing can fucking fill it. And like, our house feels wrong. Everything just feels fucking empty. It just lacks like a certain kind of energy. Like, everything just feels dim, fucking muted. Like, it's just like, it's so crazy the impact that it has on like my lens for everything else, and going to work, and now like how many things are just trivialized by like just my perspective shift. I'm like, I'm answering this stupid fucking email. I don't give a fuck about what this email has to do with at work. You know what I mean? Like, this shit is so much more important. But the world goes on. So it's like, you have to reconcile the fact that it really puts in perspective what's important, while juggling at the same time that the world doesn't stop and I have fucking bills to pay. And so it's like this weird, and then because it's a dog, like if you're a dog person, it's something that you can relate to, and you're like, that's horrendous. I can't believe anybody could go through something like that. But if you're not, it's like, well, big fucking deal. Your pet died. Like, your goldfish died. Like, you fucking get it together and go to fucking work. I worked from home for a week. And after the week, I was like, I still feel pretty fucked up, but I feel like I have to go to work. Cause like, how do I tell my boss I'm just too sad? And that's unfortunate that I like even have to worry about it to that extent. So I like force myself to go to work and do these fucking, menial fucking things. And, at the end of the day, it was fine. It's not like it hindered me or like fucked me up mentally, but it was just a crazy thing having to like identify the appropriate time and place and who I could kind of like lean into and be transparent with how impacted I was versus people I felt like I couldn't really like relay that to, that weren't going to be empathetic or understanding or receptive to the fact. And so that was a really weird thing too. And I can feel like judgment, like when I'm speaking to somebody about it, and I kind of gauge whether or not like I can even like emotionally explore that aspect of the conversation with somebody. And some people I'm like, nah, I can't. Like this person doesn't fucking understand, doesn't get it, and like sees me like that is going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude? Is mentally unstable. You know what I mean? Like, so
that's funny.
Just,
that's funny that you bring that portion of it up, because when Coda died, you were like the first person that I called. Because I was like, oh, he's gonna like, he'll understand. Plus, like talking to Gabe just makes me feel better. But like, I know the only reason I bring this up is because when Coda died, Gabe was like the first person I called. I called Tierra first because it was her dog originally, and then I called Gabe, and we had this conversation. And I was very, very upset and emotional about it. And I chatted with him about it, and we kind of like, in our exchange of words, we were kind of like, well, like there's nothing that we can really say. Like there's nothing I can say to make you feel better. There's nothing you can say to make yourself feel better. And then, we chatted about Sal, which is Gabe's dog, and Oscar, who I've had for just about the same amount of time, and how, like I don't envy what Gabe's going through or what he has gone through, because I know that I'm next to come with my dog when it goes through that shit. So it's like scary to me to think about this. And as much as I can prepare myself based off of what Gabe is saying, it's just like, I know that I'm going to I know that because him and I talked on the phone about this, but it was like a week later. And I know that the same conversation is going to come. And it's just like, what do you say? Like he said, when you talk to somebody that has dogs and understands, like you can easily have this conversation with them, but it's like, what do you say? What do you say? You know what I mean? And it's funny that you brought up the life keeps going thing, because last week when we were talking about death, I was having a conversation about why do we eat after funerals? And it was because we have to understand that our life continues to go, and we have to continue to nourish the body that we live in, and that we're still present to this day. So we have to keep going. But I feel like it's so different when you lose a dog, because it's like, they don't talk, they don't go to work, they don't drive cars. Their only job that they learn from a puppy is the person that interacts with them the most. That's who they're going to love the most. And that's who they have their back, and they create a bond with them. And then from there, it's just like love unconditional.
Yeah. And Andy said to me too, she's like, you got to understand that, like, and she was trying to make me feel better about the fact that I was there when he finally like went. And she was like, you got to understand, like, you're the only thing that has been completely constant in this dog's life. Like from the time he was born, like you're the only thing that hasn't changed. Like the environment's changed, the neighborhood's changed, the house has changed, but like you're the only motherfucker that this fool is like 100%. I know what's up with this person, and like they're there. And so it's just, I don't know, man. It's super crazy, super strange feeling. But so what I wanted to get to with that is this idea of going through something that's like that is that mind altering and like that big and heavy and impactful, like reframing the way that I look at all these other things, I think does correlate to some of these ideas that, as we described earlier, are things that I need to work on. And so it's like weird that in this state of being super fucking sad, it's almost like I'm not so quickly like distractible, or I'm not so like I can't hold on to anger enough to like not sit with my fucking thoughts and like think about some shit. And so yesterday was an interesting example where so when me and Andy were having a conversation, me and my lady, and I offered something to a friend of ours, and I asked her like, hey, is it okay if I offer this up? She was like, yeah. And so I did it, and I felt good about it. And I felt like, hey, I'm fucking doing my homie a solid, like, and I feel good about it. He's in a tough spot. And I like was just putting forth the gesture of goodwill and being like, I feel good about this. And then she made a point after I hung up the phone, and she was like, oh man, something I just thought about was this. And it wasn't like a thing that had happened. What she brought up was a possibility, and just reflecting on that, it was possible when I could maybe be inconvenienced and it was going to have a negative impact, and like my good gesture was going to potentially backfire on me, and we were going to have to deal with some nonsense. It made me like, I started like fixating on it, and I was like fucking obsessing over it. And I was just like, and I came home and I was in such a good mood, and I was just like, I was just doing things, and I like called my friend, like I said, and I just was like feeling good. And then when she said that, it like threw me off my shit. And then I was like mad at how good I felt. And then now in comparison, like how bad I felt. And it like was frustrating. So I was getting like almost like amped up and like for no reason and like with no fucking end or anything. And I was just like sitting there, and I realized that like, dude, you're doing that thing where you're going to start snowballing and you're going to hyperfixate and you're just going to like be fucking mad, and like you need to fucking do something. And then I'm thinking about like simultaneously about like all this grief I'm going through and like how it's affecting like my motivation and what I feel like I need to do to like cope with it. And I'm just like thinking about this idea of just like physically changing your brain space. And I'm like, I need to do something to like physically alter the chemicals in my brain. Also harkening back to like why somebody drinks or why somebody, you know, self-medicates. And for me, like I have seen some success with just the ability to change my mindset with like expending energy. So I literally I just fucking plank as long as I can until I fucking collapse. And then I'm just like do fucking push-ups. And I'm like not a guy that works out like that at all. I just literally was like at desperately like just need to like put out energy because I'm like fucking overflowing with it. And so I did. And so I was like literally collapsed. And the point was like, if I expend enough energy to the point where I can't anymore, like how fucking angry can I be? And then that was really my goal. And so then I was like fucking tired. And then I was like still kind of mad, but too tired to be mad. And it was just like important that I realized like, okay, you can change your space. Like, even though you were hyper fixating on something, it's not the only, there's not only room for that thought and like that thought pattern. And so it was like just demonstrating, if even for a moment, that like I could shift my headspace was like enough to prove to me that like, okay, you need not fixate on this thing. It's just like a temporary state based on like chemical reactions. And so it led to me communicating that to fucking my lady, which was like a weird thing. It was a moment that it was so difficult to communicate, and it was abstract enough to like not feel like I could put my finger on exactly what I was saying, that it normally would result in me not communicating that thing. But I felt like it was so important for me to like let her know what was going on internally, because it's like really weird. And I'll like snap at her for no fucking reason. And she's like, I don't know what's going on in your head. Meanwhile, I'm having like a fucking internal crisis. And so I like really just like took my time and like very patiently like gathered my thoughts and like walked her through like the sequence of events that just took place. And I was like, look, like this happened. I got obsessive about this thing for no reason. I couldn't shake it off. It wasn't about that you said it or you did anything wrong. It was just like, for some reason, it hit me that way. And I was just trying to figure out how to like deal with it. And once I was able to, I like said that to her and like kind of told her like what I was in practice of doing, and that it was even mildly successful. And she was just like really appreciative. Like, dude, thank you for sharing that with me. Like you don't know how informative it is to know like the things that you're going through and like why. Like, I think you're being a dick, but it's not just because you're fucking mad at me or I'm doing something wrong or whatever. And it's most of the time it's not at all. Like, it's never that shit. It's all this shit that's going on in my fucking head. But it was just such a like crazy takeaway and like lesson that I like grabbed from that situation, which was just like going through something and like grief that heavy does really recontextualize so many things. And I was like, it doesn't have to be just like bad. Like you just go through grief and you just have to fucking wait until it's over. It's like, it really can serve as a tool and like as a context and like a backdrop for, I mean, whatever you want to look at in it. And it's, I don't know, it just is a very interesting thing. And I mean, I've been a super fucking depressed kid, like super bipolar, like went through bouts of depression, like really fucking bad when I was younger. And so it's like a feeling and like a mind state that I really relate to. And so it's interesting to almost like have like more of like a clinical mindset with regard to it, and to like figure out how to like capitalize and monopolize like some of the things that like otherwise just feel like terrible fucking things to go through. But I think my thinking on it is like, those things are never going to go away. Like, we're never going to be able to escape those things in life. So it's like, if we don't figure out how to utilize those things or leverage those things or cope with those things, like, what the fuck, man, we don't stand a chance.
I think with grief, I think for me with grief, is like, because we all grieve different things. Sometimes we grieve, you know, loved ones, relationships, people, places, things, moments, whatever. And I think the thing about healing from this grief, I think to me starts when you're willing to kind of step into the storm. And meaning like there's all these emotions, there's all these feelings, there's all this like, but knowing that you got to step into the storm. You know what I mean? Like some of these feelings, some of these realizations and rationalizations is like you have to come to terms with it. Just like Cisco was saying, like with the food. To me, that's like one of the first steps I think people really take to healing in the grieving process without realizing, you know, the people coming and bringing coffee and checking on you. Like little do you realize like that's the first, because they get you to talk about it. They kind of get you to run down memory lane, or they get you to kind of think about this. Like to me, like with a relationship, like to me, I'm grieving a relationship, whatever. Boohoo. But
nah, you know you can't do that. You know you can't boo-hoo on that, bro. We've all been there, bro. You know, the relationship is that's a complete different grievance.
To mourn somebody who's alive is something like that is so strange. And to hear their voice and to be like, what you once were is now is it's dead. And to see that swing of the pendulum is nuts.
And I would say to raise you, like not only is it dead, but it becomes symbolic of like so much worse. Like to be dead is like inert, right? Like you could just be out of sight, out of mind, but it like becomes like a symbol of like the level of loss. And it's like that cuts even deeper.
I think the thing that I mourn right now, super heavy, because it's been a while. It's been a few weeks since me and her like really stopped communicating, though she reached out. I think it was like the idea of the future that we had once contemplated together in very intimate moments. And to think that it went from that to this is like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like, what happened? Like, where did it go wrong? And
well,
then
that's where the fixation part comes in too, right?
Yeah, but then that's also a part of that storm you got to step into, dude. You got to step into this. You kind of got to let the thoughts run and let them run their course. And I think going into it with the idea that you're stepping into the madness, like I'm about to step into this madness right now. When you go in there consciously, I feel like it makes the healing process feel at least more beneficial than not. I feel like people get trapped in their intrusive thoughts and these circulating thoughts in their own heads, and it just goes nowhere. But if
okay, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying like, but if you go into it with the idea of like I'm stepping into this thought barrage with the idea that it's okay, like it's okay. Like, yeah, there's a lot of thoughts of what could have been, the house and the kids and the mayor and the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to think about that, but know that it was a thought. It was a thought. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not even going to be the dude to be like, it was just all a fucking lie. It was a thought, dude. Like,
yeah, but then it relates back to what you were saying, right? Like, where did it go wrong? What happened? And at that point, one of two things happens. You either blame them or you blame yourself. And it's like, if you wind up blaming them, then you chase closure, right? Like, you're like, why did this happen? Why did you act this way? Why did you do this? But then if you put the blame on yourself, you're like, why did I do that? Why did I act out this way? You know what I mean? So either way, you wind up getting fixated on the whys and what if I did this differently. The what ifs of this world is what kills you. The what ifs is what damages you the most, right? What if I die this way? What if I would have done this differently? What if I was a better boyfriend or whatever? What if I never hid in that bush? You know what I mean? Like little shit like that. Little shit like that is
that's I mean, you start playing the shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, it literally says it in like when they fucking cremated my dog, and they gave me like the little pamphlet, and it's like, be careful of this kind of grief, and like literally like talks about some of the shit we're talking about. And that was definitely like, yeah, that was definitely one of the things they said is like
stay away from alcohol, stay away from this. And then it's like, don't blame yourself. And it's just like,
yeah. And it was like I did it immediately. Like I fucking spoiled the shit out of my dog. I don't know a dog that's more spoiled than this motherfucker. Sleeps in my California king size bed, fucking does whatever he wants. Like he's fucking spoiled. And me and my lady love him more than we love fucking anything. And still full dies. And I was like, man, I should have been fucking taking him out more. I never took him to the dog park. Like, oh, I should have been feeding him fucking raw organic food. Like whatever the fuck I could come up with to like give me any semblance of like, and you feel like you deserve to be that kind of guilty, but it's like, dude, I know he was good. I know he was good. He fucking loved the shit out of us, and he loved fucking the life that he had. And so it's like a disservice to go down that road and to start questioning like my own motives and like my own like well-natured like being. And it's like, for what? Like exactly like you said, it was a thought. And not only was it just a thought that you could chalk up as to fleeting, but it was a thought that was honest to you as it transpired in that moment. And it's like, that's half the thing. It's like, we're all navigating this clusterfuck of a thing called life. And like, it's a lot of figuring shit out along the way. And it's like, I mean, that's why they say it's interesting with kids, because like a kid has to bully another kid to really figure out how he feels about it. And it's like, there are kids that like aren't bullies by nature, but will just do some shit because like they haven't learned yet. And so they'll like push a kid down or call a kid a name. And I remember being a kid and having an experience like that. And it's like, that's when you find out like, oh, that did not make me fucking feel good. Like that didn't sit right with me. You know what I mean? And like, I think people forget that it really, really does take you like doing the work and facing the fucking dragon to figure out what the fuck you really, really behave like. And that's kind of what you're saying about walking into the storm is like, you got to face the motherfucking dragon sometimes, dude. Like, and
the jumping off the bridge.
The jumping off the bridge. Texas. Yeah.
That's like a perfect fucking example, bro. Gabe, okay, here's the story. So we were in Texas and we were at this like river, and there was a portion that had a bridge, and there was a bunch of people jumping off of it. And I don't do that type of shit. That shit is wild to me. But I was like, I want to do this. I want to fucking jump off this fucking bridge. But I was fucking scared shitless, and then my anxiety started tripping, bro, and I started like, and Gabe was like, this was what made me do it, like legit. He was like, well, if you're gonna do it, then do it. If not, come on, let's go. And I was like, fuck, like it's that simple. Like if you're gonna do it, just do it. If not, then what the fuck are you fixating on? And then I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, dog. And I fucking jumped off a bridge, and it was fucking dope as fuck. And I was like hella happy that I did it, bro. Like I was ecstatic, and I was talking about it for like hours after that. I was like, damn, I fucking jumped off that bridge, like face my fear type of thing. And I was like, thank you, bro. Thank you for fucking pushing me through that. And it's just like, I mean, that equates it's exactly the same as what you guys are talking about. You have to just fucking do it. Even if it's something as far as grieving goes, like you're like, let me feel my feelings, but okay, I do have to keep it pushing. And we have mementos, we have memories, we have things for, you know, of that like I just recently put away I had a little card for Coda, like a little memory card, and I recently just put it away. And I know that I want to bring it back, but it just like I didn't want to look at it every day, and because it reminded me of how he passed away, and it just wasn't fun. So I put it away, but I have it for that, like I can pull it out and think about him. And you know, there's times where I go through my pictures and think about him and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, we I was watching something earlier where we're talking about how we, you know, life and death, and thinking about life and death is so surreal sometimes, because it allows us to remember that we do only have a short time, and that we have to make up for the time maybe that others didn't have that we continue to have. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard, bro. I haven't lost anybody to that point yet that either one of you guys have. So I'm speaking freely on this. But I know that with time and when it happens, speaking with others that have felt this way will, I won't say make it easier, but it'll you know draw out the thick string to make it a little bit thinner of pain. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna say this though is I talk with a lot of different people about grief and stuff, and especially because we are getting to that age where we're losing friends and we're losing parents and
We shouldn't be, by the way. We're still fucking young, but we shouldn't be.
I've lost some good friends, man, and I've lost some good people in my life. And I always remembered hearing the saying of like the worst thing you've ever been through is the worst thing you've ever been through. And I really try to stand by that when somebody's telling me about their grief. You know what I mean? Like whether it's about a dog or a fish or a cat or a brother or sister, whatever, like I try to meet it with the same humility on all levels, because the worst thing you've ever been through it's the worst thing you've ever been through. And so I just find it odd that like everybody's form of grieving is different. You know what I mean? And everyone goes through a very toxic phase at one point or the other. You know what I mean? Whether you're not eating or you're not showering or you're drinking your fucking self down the fucking neck of the bottle. I did want to ask though for both of you guys is like, so we know what we recognize of like, damn, like I've hit rock bottom in this moment. Like I got to pull myself together. You know what I mean? But what are things that you guys do, like especially for you, Kyle? Like yours is very fresh, you know, and so like what are things that you're doing to get through your day, bro? Like how are you handling it? Like I hate hearing it put that way, but it's the only way I know how to say it. It's like
No, I mean,
day.
it's I don't know of a different way to ask it. It's literally like you have to figure out how to get through your day. How the fuck are you doing it?
Uh-oh. You muted. You're muted.
You muted yourself.
Somehow, some way, you muted yourself.
Yeah, somehow.
The finger of death.
You are so muted.
There you go. Wait, nope. Your mic got unplugged, I think is what happened. Cancel.
Oh my god. Guys, I'm trying hard.
I know you're fading, huh? I can see it.
No, it's not even
testing.
Yeah, you're good now.
Oh no.
Wait, what are you trying hard about, Korpsx? Always gonna get emotional again? Hey, if it's gotta get emotional, let's get emotional. You're good.
Nothing?
Yeah, you're good. Can y'all not hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Oh, okay. He can't hear us.
Oh. Yeah.
How do we? Oop! Didn't mean to do that.
No idea.
Let me see.
We hear you. These are always the funnest part of these podcasts. Like when we hit like a weird, random technical.
Wish I could hear you.
Oh, it hurt.
That's so weird, man. My camera switched, but I switched it back. I mean, not my camera, my mic, I mean. But now I can't hear you. Let me see if I can switch it and switch back. Say something.
Yo.
We're back.
All right, we're back. We're back.
Yeah, this I don't know, this browser shit. My computer don't like it.
What were you saying right now, Korpsx? About it's hard. It's getting. I said, bro. If it's gotta get emotional, you know, I'm ready to shut it.
I can't.
Oh, you're asking how? What am I doing to get through the day?
Oh yeah.
The kind of what I was saying earlier about how like the house just feels wrong. Like he's always been in the house, and this is something I was saying to Save. Like when I first called him about it, I was like, dude, like, of course it's a big loss. Of course we're really sad. Of course there's a lot of grief involved, but like, I didn't realize how explicitly tied to every single aspect of our life that dog was. from the time we make fucking breakfast, the time I have to shower, the time I have to go to work, all dictated by my dog. Like what time he needs to go out, what time I need to feed him, like what he's walking in the room at a certain time, and all these like built-in habits that we've developed where it's like I know at this like time when I'm standing at this point in the hallway, like I'm always just going to look and see if he's in his bed. And like I'll catch like my lady still doing shit like that. And it's just like, you know, we have a rabbit too, and we hear the rabbit like pitter-pattering on the fucking hardwood. And like logically, I know it can't be my dog, but I still have to fucking check. Like I look over and I'm like, oh fuck, is it him? Like, and so that's been like really, really difficult, is like learning how many things we didn't even consider were going to remind us of like what a terrible situation it is and like how fucking sad we are about it. And so I was like, dude, like he was our entire routine and he's not here anymore. So we have no routine. And not having a routine is like really fucking with me because it makes it feel like the days are that much longer and the house is that much emptier. And so what I'll do by default is I'll just like find whatever the most successful form of escapism is for me in that moment, and I'll just go fucking ham. And so like that's probably why I jumped on fucking New World and hit fucking level cap in less than 2 weeks, because I just like, and I don't play like that, but I'll fucking lock in because it's like distracting me well enough to like keep me doing that thing. And it's not necessarily like I'm seeking it out intentionally. I just know that that's how I operate. And I know that it's an easy like fix for me. It's like, let me find something that just like stimulates my brain well enough that I can't think about anything else. It's also why I really like rock climbing, because rock climbing like is challenging and engaging mentally enough to where like I'm on a wall shaking, I'm fucking trembling, and I'm trying to like not fucking fall. I don't have time to think about like what's stressing me or bogging me down. And so like, it's a really useful thing to like realize. But when I'm fucking depressed and apathetic and sitting at home, it'll usually culminate in the form of something like gaming, where it's like not necessarily quite as healthy, but it's like convenient and it's accessible to me. So I'll like fall into that thing.
Hey, gaming's healthy, bro. You use your mind.
It depends on how you use
Portal
it.
2.
Depends on how you use it. I'm 5 hours in, I'm like, oh, my fucking wrist hurts. My back hurts.
You gotta get a more ergonomic chair.
I do.
Oh my god.
But so with realizing that that's how I operate, and seeing that there are already certain things that I'm kind of like gravitating toward, and this is something else I was talking to Save about, is I was like, I need to like pursue something new, because I just like I have like, it's not like, I mean, we're so fucking busy, it's not like I have a lot of time, but I have time to fill with regard to that time that I was spending with the dog. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I need to do something new. Like I need to challenge myself in a new way, or I need to like incorporate something that I can like spend my time learning or doing. And so I told him, like, I just recently like took an interest in fucking cooking. I don't know how to cook shit. Fucking 32. My lady cooks everything. I fucking do the cleaning and she does the cooking. Mm-hmm. And with
like
regard to the kitchen, she does clean a lot of other shit too, but I do the dishes. And you know, it's fucking great. But also she's a vegetarian. I'm a meat eater, and there's a lot of fucking things I'm kind of particular about, and I'll modify the shit out of stuff when we go out to eat. And I'm like, you know what, dude? Like, I don't know how to do it. It's fucking shitty that I don't know how to do it. It's a thing that I need to eat fucking twice a day. So I have ample opportunity to like practice the thing. And I just figure like it's a thing that I can engage in. It's pretty fucking open-ended. I can get as nutty with it as I'm willing to go. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do that. I bought like a little fucking baker's cart and put it in the kitchen where like his fucking food and water and shit used to go, because there's just this empty ass awkward space next to the fridge. And so I was like, cool, put some shit there, and fucking bought some cookbooks and I'm listening to this fucking Anthony Bourdain book and just like fucking getting into it and just figuring it out. Bought a little 2-pack of fillets. Fucking did the worst cook you've ever seen in your entire life, bro.
Recently, since the last time we talked?
No. That was still the only two steaks I cooked, bro. And you know, and sometimes
it was a fillet you fucked up,
fam. It looked like a Dalmatian when I was done with it, bro. It was fucking raw and then well. I'm over here thinking
you like you're not even starting with. You gotta go like New York strip or something.
Nah, fam. I was like, but you know, it was, and so there's two aspects to that too. It's like taking on a new thing. It's exciting, and I know it's beneficial, and it's kind of like I feel good about it. Like I'm going to learn how to do it. I know my attention to detail and everything. So like once I have the know-how, I know it's something that I'll excel at, and I'll feel good about being able to like whip something up for my lady, or like fucking for the homies or something. Like it gives me something to feel accomplished about and like feel good about, and like make people feel good, and food makes me excited. So I was like, it's just like seems like a healthy thing that I can like really attempt to engage in. But then it's tricky though, because while I'm grieving, and kind of, I guess, like more sensitive to like being negative, I'll have a night like that where I really fuck up what I'm attempting to cook, and I'm like, man, maybe cooking's not for me, and I'm just like all fucking hard on myself about it. So it's like having to balance that, like, hey, this is still a new thing, and you're gonna have to fuck some shit up to like figure it out along the way. But in the grand scheme of things, like, it is a really, really fucking useful thing that you could learn how to do and feel good about doing and be able to share with other people.
Well,
I don't know if I'll stick to it.
It goes back to what you were saying about the whole bully situation, right? Like, you really got to know to know.
Yeah, like you gotta jump off the bridge to see like what's in the fucking water. So,
but do you think that you putting that like cooking area right next to where or like right in replacement of his water bowl and food bowl, do you think that's like a little like a nudge to him, or did you just do it because of the space?
I think it's interesting because I had to ask myself for like I had like decided I wanted to get it, and then I had like 2 days where I hadn't, because I was like, I didn't want to feel like I was just replacing the space. But then I realized, more like what you're saying, where it's like I'm not replacing it. It's like I'm turning this into another thing, so I can like channel that into something. And all in all, like, I know my fucking dog, and I know generally like what I feel like when he was around, and I'm like, this fool don't want me to just sit around fucking depressed. I'm sure he would really fucking enjoy a house full of cooking and me whipping up and like utilizing, the pain of the situation to like fucking launch into something more mentally beneficial. So to answer your question, that was a long-winded way of saying like just identifying that I need a new routine, and like really trying to figure out how to spend my time and not get locked into things that like I'm going to feel bad about after 3 months of like doing something not that healthy, where I'm like, I literally haven't fucking gone outside or like exercised a fucking half an ounce. So yeah, just like trying to balance the things and reminding myself that even though like I gravitate toward things like distracting myself with gaming, that like there's an appropriate time and place to do it, but like it's really important not to push aside that grief, and that like it is important to let myself fucking feel that shit. And going back to what you were saying about, like people not understanding and so on and so forth, it's something I converse with my mom about, because of course she's a fucking mom, super traditional mom. So like doesn't want to see me sad if something goes wrong. Like even in the case where my dog died, she's always trying to find the silver lining, and she's always trying to like flip it optimistically and talk about the good about it and what I have to be grateful for. And it's a really great mentality to have and to want to like impose on other people. But so frequently I'm like, it's too soon. Like it just sucks. You just have to let it suck. You just have to acknowledge that it sucks and let me feel like it sucks, and like it's all good. And like we can talk about all that other shit at another point in time when like it's appropriate and I feel receptive to it. But right now it's fucking it's whack and it sucks, and like that's all that needs to be said.
You think what I mean? And like and this goes for you as well, Korpsx, because like it's a natural reaction, right? Like for somebody that you tell that you have a loss of, or like we'll take Korpsx's example into consideration right now. Like he's going through a breakup or whatever, however you want to talk about it. But like if I was like, yeah man, just fucking like let's go out and fucking do something, you'll get over it. Like that's like a common thing that people would say, right? But as the person going through grief, is that like not what you want to hear?
Well, I think it's all dependent on the person and like the circumstance of grief. Like it's all case by case, certainly.
I get really violent over my grief.
Oh yeah?
I get very defensive. I don't like people to rush me through my grief. I don't need that. I don't want that. Like, and I don't think that they understand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, until I'm able to feel at a place where like I feel like myself, I feel as though I'm doing the world a disservice. And I'm doing this disservice in a sense where it's like they can see through it. You know what I mean? Like I feel as though they can see through this mask I'm putting on to cover up that I'm trying to feel okay.
Do you think that's does that rush you to try and feel better since you feel like you're doing a disservice?
No, it sends me into more turmoil because little like this example, for example, what I'm going through now, like I had no control over the decisions made in the ways that people decided to do things. And so you're trying to take that same control over something that I barely have any control over. I get to control when I feel this grief. I get to control when I think about it. I get to control when I decide to get over it. So for you to come to me and say, hey, let's go out, man, fuck her. It's like, first off, bro, if me and her were together, I wouldn't even allow you to mutter those words. So first off, now you're already disrespecting this memory, right? One that I'm trying to let go of. Like, I'm going through my process of like, you know what I'm saying? So then you just keep stacking on top of it. I'm like, fuck off, dude. Like, just let me go through my process. And it's, you know, walking into the storm doesn't always mean you got to run through it. You know, you walk through it at your own pace. And it makes me feel as though I'm drowning and everyone is watching me and they're breathing. And I can see that they're breathing. But I'm suffocating when people say shit like that to me.
Which is why I think it's case by case. You know what I'm saying? Because equally, you have a friend where you can pitch the same idea to, and they're receptive and grateful and like, wow, this guy really has my back. Like, you're just always down to fucking just, you know, just to do the thing and get my mind off of shit. So it's like, it just depends on like that level of rapport you have with somebody, like how somebody identifies and personality traits, like how they're all implemented. Like, and even still, it's not like that's consistent for every person. It's not like Korpsx is going to react that way every single time, grieving over multiple different instances. It's like whatever dictates the like appropriate behavior in that moment is going to change, I think, like depending on what's going on in his life, depending on how he sees the world, depending on chemically and physiologically what his body is doing that day. Like, and I think that's why it's such a difficult thing to address. I think that's why there's no right answer. That's why there's not a thing that everybody knows to write on a card after a loss. It's like, some people want to hear this and some people don't. Some people it's offensive to, and some people it's like they just want any kind semblance of a kind word. You know what I mean? And that was another interesting thing. Like, after fucking Sal died and my work found out, was like they sent me a little endable arrangement. They sent some flowers and sent a card. And it was interesting. You know, it's fucking in an office. So like seeing your different coworkers and knowing like your level of closeness with different coworkers is different, and how people perceive you. And so like just seeing what people even write in a card is just so interesting. But it's like, and I understand in a moment of true grief, it's really hard to like look at it from like a bird's eye view. But it's so important, even if something rubs me the wrong way, that like I separate the intention from the content. You know what I mean? It's like people don't fucking know, and this is them trying to do whatever they can just to like offer something up. And so the gesture, I think, is more significant than the message, which is why like my mom gets a pass when she does that shit. It's like, I know what her goal is. I know what her intention is, and it's not malicious.
Yeah.
But
homies get a pass.
Yeah.
Homies get a pass for sure. They get a hard pass.
But I feel you, because sometimes I'm like, you fucking don't understand. Let it fucking suck right now. Like, it sucks. Yeah. Let me be depressed, you know? Like, it's just like,
I feel like, you know, because like you said, everybody goes through their storm at different times, you know, but as somebody watching grief, right? Because we've all been there watching grief as well, you know, and that's also hard to let somebody that you love. I mean, I've gone through it with a couple of my boys, you know what I mean? And like sitting there watching them go through that grief for such a long time, it's like somebody's got to kind of like try and pull you out of there at some point.
Because that's the flip side of what Korpsx is saying, right? Is like, at what point, like, because there's like the first half, right, where I give you your grace, I give you the benefit of the doubt, I allow you your room to process and like the time to process. Who's the arbiter to say that like after 3 years goes by, 5 years goes by, you're still drinking yourself into oblivion, you're going through your process? Like, at what point is it no longer just you going through a process and like really unhealthily engaging and like self-destructing and leaning into the spiraling before somebody does have like the merit to kind of pull you out of it, or attempt to pull you out of it, and kind of like slap you on the shoulder and say like, hey, what the fuck, man? Like, look, like I get it, and I'm not telling you to get over it, but like, look at how you're handling the situation. Like, the shit is not sustainable. And so that's an interesting thing too. And who fucking knows? Because like you said, you know, if he goes through a loss and 5 years from now he still feels like he does today, you can't just change that. You can't just snap your finger and say like, hey man, like you've passed the threshold of time. Like you're not allowed to be upset about this anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's no guideline. There's no like expiration date on grief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and that's what I'm saying. Like, as you feel that you're doing a disservice to the world, like sometimes the world may feel like they're doing a disservice to you by not trying to help you out of whatever hole or pit you feel like you're in. At least that's how I look at it. You know what I mean? And it's not like I'm gonna be like a weekend and be like, yeah, man, you know, blah blah blah, get a new dog or fucking go find a new girlfriend. You know, I would never do anything like that. But it's like Kaz said, right? At some point, you are doing something unhealthy because you've mentioned it yourself, right? There's some type of toxicity that comes with grievance, whether it's anger, whether it's, you know, falling into a vice, drug use, alcohol, whatever the fucking case may be. At some point, you got to be an actual true friend and be like, yo, let's pick you up. Let's keep you going. You know, like we gotta move from this a little bit, at least from this portion of grievance, you know, because there's multiple steps of grievance. Let's move you to the next step, bro. You know what I mean? I feel like at some point you and I think you'll only know when it's time for that to happen when you like you'll know that it's time, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think too. I mean, because we've spoke to this effect before on a different episode with friends, and it's knowing your friends too. Like if we're talking about addressing somebody and trying to help them get through their healing process, you got to know where your friends are at. You got to know how they react, and you again, like you got to also understand case by case. People are going to go through their process their own way, and maybe you need to back up and let them drink themselves through it, right? Because if you're too close, who knows what effect that's having on them, right? So it's an experimental thing, and there's no. My mom always said that there's just no right way to do it. You know, there's no right way to grieve, and there's
a wrong way. I feel like there is a wrong way.
I think wrong ways are when they become detrimental to your health, to or you and or others. Yeah, you and or others. Other than that, I mean, I can't tell somebody to not grieve, you know, or to not cry. Like I just don't have that space in myself. I mean, whether I'm around it is my choice, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's my place as their friend, but them doing that action, I can't.
Yeah. The don't cry thing. That's an interesting concept because, you know, for the longest I grew up not crying. Because my dad is like a stone face fucking killer, bro. Even when his mom passed away, I didn't see him cry. And I started like kind of having that same pattern with Peanut, where I would tell him don't cry or like wipe your face when he started to cry. Like you have no reason to cry. Why are you crying? Because the way I always looked at it is like, the way I always looked at it is like, you know, you're fucking alive. You have everything that the fuck you need. Like what the fuck are you crying about? But through conversation and from like hearing other people and watching other people and moving the way that I do now, it's like I try my very hardest to not tell him don't cry. But at the same time, it's like I also don't want my son to grow up and be a pussy. You know what I mean? Like it's hard, bro. The don't cry thing is a hard thing.
Well, I think. And of course, like such an oversimplification of such a nuanced conversation that's so different for so many different people on the planet. It's like borderline silly to say. I'm almost like, I don't even know why I'm going to open my mouth about it. But I think there's a distinction between, because I was a kid that cried a lot. And I cried for two different reasons. One, I was a really sensitive kid and I was like highly, like, I just felt a lot. Like I just felt big feelings all the time. And I was the youngest. And I think I just had like, I don't know. You can get into all the fucking psychological complex about it, but some of it was that I was a sensitive kid. The other thing is like I just fucking cried, and so there were moments and things that I cried about that like weren't necessarily because I was overwhelmed with emotion, but because like I had learned like that was what I did, and it didn't serve me well because like my fucking brother would like roast the shit out of me or just fucking punk the shit out of me or just like Charlie horse me in the living room and I'll just fucking cry and then he'd be all upset with me because like I'd all go fucking cry to mom. Like, and so I remember like learning that like there was a moment where it literally is due to an overwhelming influx of emotions and then there's just like learned pattern behavior and just like you just like a fucking child like starts to recognize the pattern of like, when I cry, I get what I want. Yeah. And so I think it's important to draw a distinction between those two elements and to like not reinforce that a kid should behave that way because he gets what he wants, but allowing your kid the space to process, and whether it be on a more sensitive level or at least sensitive one that is unique to him as an individual. And like, if your kid is fucking hypersensitive and emotionally overwhelmed, that like, that's not something you can just teach out of him. You know what I mean? Like, so allowing that, you know what I mean? And I think just recognizing the difference between a kid that's like perpetuating a bad habit versus a kid that's like really processing emotion and just happens to be hypersensitive to what he's feeling.
And that's where Peanut is right now. And I'm the same way. Like since I've known Gabe, I've never seen him cry. So hearing that he cried when he was a kid is like crazy, because in the 15, 16 years that I've known him, I've heard him cry once. Like, that's it. I think once, maybe one other time. I don't remember, but I'm like what you were as a child. I'm overly sensitive. I feel fucking shit. I'll like be scrolling through TikTok and I'll see something that's like heartwarming and then I'll get a tear in my eye. But like in front of people, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a crier because I don't want anybody to see that emotion. But that's what I'm learning with Peanut, is that he's learning how to feel his feelings, and sometimes you don't know what to feel, so your body just starts crying, and like that's what it is. Like, I don't know how to feel here, so boom, let's just cry. Yeah. And I'll ask him.
There's a poem I once read, and I added to the end of it. And so I decided to cry. And so recently, over these past few years, I've not been so ashamed of my tears. Because, as men, we are taught, hey, dude, just suck it up. Like, what I mean? Don't cry. And I just didn't want to ever show that weakness, But matter of fact, I actually tweeted this poem the other day. And I pulled it up for this podcast, too. And it goes, if I tell the sorrows of my heart, it will burn my tongue. If I keep it in my heart, I'm afraid it will set me aflame from inside. But if I let it out, I'm sure it will burn the world. So I cannot let it out. So I let my sorrows rot inside.
It's heavy, dude.
And so I add to it. And so I decided to cry. So instead of letting it out, instead of burning down the world, I'll sit here and I'll let it out my eyes.
Yeah, that's profoundly sad.
And it's like a Sumerian poem or like some like Islamic poem. So it's been like translated like 30 different ways.
That shit is, that's so a deep cut, bro. That's fucking potent right there, dog. I'm not gonna lie.
Because it does, like, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go with grief, because especially like for guys, you know what I mean? We've never really been taught healthy ways to deal with this stuff. And like I was telling Save before the podcast, was like, I need to feel the pain of what I'm going through. Like, I have to have that. Like, I can't, like, like Save was like, man, spare yourself. It's like, I can't. Like, I need to know these things. I need.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about what we're talking about. So what we're talking about is, in not so many words, why in relationships, or like when a relationship doesn't work out because there's another person in the relationship based off. I mean, we're all heterosexual males, so like if a relationship didn't work out with a woman because we found out that there was another guy involved, our immediate thought is, did you fuck him? And we ask that question, and I always say to myself, why the fuck would we ask that question? Because genuinely, I feel like a lot of us don't really want to know, but we kind of have to know a little bit. And it's like, if we know, like if they say yes, it's like it hurts even more, because as men, we like picture that type of shit. I don't know. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? I don't understand.
So let's table that for a second, because I want to touch on something Korpsx said before, kind of shifting into that, because I think that's slightly different territory. I'm trying to remember the last thing Korpsx said right now. You're saying you need it. Like, I need to keep
the pain.
I need to feel this.
It's like a grounding thing.
you've seen these kind of like motifs in movies and shows, and you've seen like I mean, that's like a not uncommon trope, right? That like somebody suffers a loss or a parent loses a child or something, and it's like, you know, that I've like literally heard that piece of dialogue. Like this, the pain is literally all I have left of this person. And so that's one element of it. It's like you're clinging on to the very last fragment of this thing that meant so much to you. It doesn't even matter how it's reflected on or like what it looks like or how fucking bad it was. It's like, I'm just attached to this thing. I don't care how bad or unhealthy or toxic anything that transpired was. Like, this thing is important, and this is the last portion that I have of it. So that's one aspect of it. And I think the other side is or another aspect is that feeling that pain and allowing it to actualize in a way that feels so intense and feels so powerful, I think offers a level of validation to the experience. And I think it validates and qualifies when you have those moments of doubt, like, oh man, we did talk about fucking kids. We did talk about marriage. And you're like, it was everything a lie. Like you were saying, you can fall into that trap. It's like, no, it's not. And it's important that it feels so bad because it was so honest and it was so intimate and it meant so much to me that like it's necessary. Like it's necessary for you to like validate that you're not a crazy person, that you did go through this fucking thing. And I mean, even on a smaller scale or in a slightly different light, like when Andy's dog fucking passed away, she had a dog before my dog passed away, and we're so fucking close, like had such a crazy relationship that just didn't seem like it was just like person and dog. Like it was unfucking canny how close these guys were. And he fucking passed away, and immediately it's like your memory gets like blurred, and you're like, man, am I like a piece of shit? Because I already don't remember certain things. Like he's already fading in my head, and I feel so guilty because it's like, am I convincing myself how important this relationship was? Like, was it not that important? Am I like adding flavor to it that wasn't actually there, that didn't actually exist? And it's such a fucking losing game. It's like, and so I've fortunately been able to be the third party that has like seen them, and I'm able to like tell her like, no, like the reason it hurts so bad is because you know how important it was. You felt it, like you had him physically with you. You know what that feels like, and that's why it hurts so bad. And I think it's important, like I said, not only because it's like the last fragments of a thing that you're like still holding on to, but it really, really like brings to fruition the seriousness and like the realness with which like you're contending with like an issue. It's like, dude, this really fucking happened. And it's like, I'm not crazy for feeling this way. And it's important that I acknowledge that. And I think that's part of the needing to feel the pain and like to go through the process is like, I think that's part of it for sure. And a super important part.
Yeah. I mean, fuck. I mean, that hits the nail right on the head, in my opinion. But I actually just went through that today about am I a piece of shit because I'm not remembering how this felt? And I thought to myself, like, wow, am I? And I'm like, nah, but some time has gone by, and it's easy to forget those things, those types of things. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And it's not consistent, right? Like I'll have a week, 2 weeks go by. I haven't thought about it really. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like, am I fucking over it? Like, is this like the next stage of grief? And then I'll just be like sitting there, not thinking about anything. And I just fucking break down crying. And I'm just like so overwhelmed and like can't keep at bay all of the rushing fucking thoughts that come in. And it's like, I can't believe I thought that I was over it or that like I wasn't going to think about it again. And it's like in that moment when it hits me again, I'm like, dude, this shit's not going anywhere. Like, it's just like you can change mindset for a little bit. You can distract yourself for a little bit. You can focus on other things. It's like, you can't, like what they say about like the tree in the forest, right? Like it's like your brain does what it needs to in order to like do the thing. That's why you forget your dreams. It's like, we have to be able to operate in reality. So it's like you wake up and your brain's like, that doesn't make any sense, and you fucking forget about it. And I think with something like a grief or loss so large, it's like, in order for me to be able to feed myself or go to work, it's like I can't focus on it at the forefront of my brain the way that it probably deserves to, because like I just wouldn't do anything. I just like wouldn't get up. And I think this goes back to it's interesting too, is we talked about food being the usually the first step right after somebody passes, or like the first thing that people attempt to offer. And similarly, like when we went through that, you know, I think a day or two went by and my sister came by and my brother came by and they brought fucking Thai food, and the next group of people brought some other food. And I think why it was so important was like, it was the last thing I was thinking about. I didn't want to like worry about picking fucking what to eat. Like it was so trivial, but it's like you go so long not eating. Like at some point you're like, dude, I fucking physically just need to eat something. And thank God there's just some stuff already like ready to eat in the fridge. And it made me think about other cultures that are like really well known for that. You know, like when fucking Peter passed away, like, dude, I think it was like one day for, I think like an entire, I don't know, fucking 14 days or something, that every day somebody brought over a whole fucking batch of food. And so the family just didn't have to think about anything. And just like, it doesn't say you're going to be okay. It doesn't say you're going to get over it. It doesn't say don't go through it. It's just like, it's like a fucking a food hug from the outside. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
And I wonder if I like, not that it's deliberate like line that I drew from one to the other, but like I wonder if that's instinctively part of like my gravitation toward like the wanting to cook, is like there's some comforting and like therapeutic element to it that I like recognize as beneficial. You know what I mean? Like whether I'm like thinking about it consciously or not.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. Whether, I mean, it probably does play a huge part in it, and it's just like subconsciously you're like, oh, but your reasoning behind it is like, I need to do this in order to survive, type of thing. Whereas in both natures, you do essentially need it to survive, right? Because to get past the grief, so you're no longer in this fucking hellhole of just depression. But at the same time, it's like, oh, you know, I'm going to learn how to cook the things that I like how to cook, and you know, saving money and this and that. You know, like it's just a lot. And that's a perfect day, man. I can't wait till you can fucking pick me a steak,
bro. It's gonna be lit, dog.
I just cooked my mom steak and fettuccine for Mother's Day.
Bro, my second steak was so much better, but it was so well done.
Oh my god, I would have left.
It was better in that it was all well done.
The fact that it was consistent all the way throughout the whole
yeah. That first
if you would have served, bro, you would have served that. If you serve me a well done steak, actually, if it's the first steak that you make for me and it's well done, I'll eat it.
I'll tell you, would have ate the well done over the liver spotted other one I made, bro. That shit was crazy.
You good, Korpsx?
Dude, I'm going through it, bro.
Hey, man, we're here with you, dog.
You wanna chat about it or what?
Well, because you know I'm still
both of y'all motherfuckers indulging, and I can't even. Willpower, baby, willpower.
Just a little off the top.
It's like the poem says. It's like, if I let out my sorrows, I'll set the world aflame.
Lucky for you, my guy. We've been on fire out here.
Like there's been like a funny fucking, there's like been a funny thing going around Instagram too lately. Like, you don't know how much hell I went through to become this peaceful. And it's like, boy, y'all have no fucking clue. Like, I have been on fire in front of like I'm on fire. And none of you even know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm ablaze right now. And none of you motherfuckers know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think grief is one of the craziest experiences because it is a silent torment to the mind. It is a silent torment to the body, and it's a silent torment to the soul. And there's a lot of times, like you guys were saying right now, bro, like I can't hear my dad's voice. You know? And it's like, fuck, like, what kind of son am I? You know what I mean? And I've been dealing with this for a while, but it still fucking sucks.
Yeah, but we were chatting about it last week too. You know what I mean? And that kind of came up, right? Like, just to give context, because what we were talking about last week is the premise was you win the lottery, 120 million, you do whatever the fuck you want, but you could give it all up to have 1 week with somebody that you lost to bring them back. And would you bring them back? That was the premise of the conversation last week. And each one of us all said no, that we wouldn't. Because we wouldn't want to go through that grief again. And And then actually somebody in Zero's chat asked if I would bring my son back. Like if my son passed away, would I bring him back for a week? And I said no to that as well. It's interesting. I was very curious as to why you wanted to bring this topic back up, but it's crazy the timing for both of you guys that this would be the topic of conversation tonight. But let me ask you this, Korpsx, because there's not a lot of context behind what you're going through right now. So I'll try and without kind of laying everything out on the table for you. What do you think that the reason that you feel that you're grieving so hard right now, because you already started the grieving process, right? Mm-hmm. You even said it like a couple weeks had gone by, we hadn't communicated at all, and then you got a phone call as recent as last night. Mm-hmm. And do you think that it was just like a wound being reopened, or something that you thought was no longer going to be there and now it's like right on your plate again?
A little bit of both, where it's like I had kind of came to a cool understanding inside myself that like I was never going to have that conversation with them. All of that, right? And maybe if she would have texted me 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, I would have been a little different in response. But I told her myself, she's like, oh, you're over me. I was like, well, I had to. She's like, well, I'm glad I was like, she said something like, she's like, oh, well, like something about like going through it, right? And I was like, yeah, I fucking had to do it by myself. Like I did this shit by my fucking self, like going through this, and now you're calling me. Like, so it is kind of like yanking a scab open, but then at the same time there was an excitement of like I actually get to have this conversation, the one that I had wanted so badly, but then it wasn't met with the receptiveness that would have, if only 4 days or 5 days had passed by. Like I wake up and go to sleep to this shit. Like I go to sleep with you on my mind and I wake up with you on my mind.
That's funny that's I mean, it's not funny that that's what you're going through. So excuse me for saying
thank you.
He said, "Ha
for enjoying my sorrow. You fucking piece of shit."
This man's on fire, and you're eating popcorn.
I legitimately did that same thing to myself, where the relationship was over, and I was like, I want closure. I want to know what the fuck is really going on. Blah, 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 blah. I demand it. And I fixated on it for so fucking long. And then, boom, like 2 months in, right? I was like, I'm probably never going to get this closure, but I still want it. A month later, I never got the closure, bro. And I'll tell you this right now. I'm so happy that I didn't. Because of the fact that we're never, no matter how much closure we actually want, we're never going to hear what we want to hear.
Because like you want it wrapped up in a pretty bow, and it's never going to happen. Like it's the astronomical likeliness of somebody just hitting on the nail exactly what you need to hear, and for it to just like amicably part ways. It's like it's so crazy that anybody thinks that's going to happen, and it's like everybody does. Like everybody that goes through it is like, maybe she'll just understand and fucking we'll just have a conversation and like,
yeah. And that's what you think, right? Like they're going to tell you this is why it didn't work. And then what are you going to do? Well, now that I know why it didn't work, let's fix it. Like
no, see, and this is,
I'm not saying that that's what you were going to do, but I'm just saying like, that's part, it's all the what ifs, right? Like what is closure? Closure is exiting like you said, amicably, and just being able to part ways and be like, okay, everything, it doesn't work like it doesn't.
And I think also because it's understanding each other's position. And usually what can happen with like a conversation with regard to closure between two people is like, you might very well agree and amicably on the objective, and you might have a great conversation about growth and about like just like moving into different fucking spaces and like all this and that, and still not have heard like where you're coming from with regard to earlier, or like the things that you need reciprocated that really matter in this conversation aren't the things that you're going to find common ground on. And I'm not saying deterministically, I just mean like because it's so likely to happen, it's like all you're seeking in that moment is reciprocity, and it's so unlikely that you're going to get reciprocated because, I mean, you guys are positionally opposed to each other in this situation. So like, of course, it's like, I don't know, man. It's difficult. That's a difficult one for sure.
So I guess really, essentially, what I'm trying to tell you is like the reason that it's hurting so bad is because you got closure, quote unquote closure, but it was the closure that you kind of asked for, and it's like it's never going to be good. Closure is never like even now you probably still have questions and you still want closure based off of the questions that you have. Like it's like a constant chase, and that it's never gonna end well. So like the the best possible outcome is just to run into the storm and realize that you're not gonna get closure. You know what I mean? Like your closure is the ending result of
That's
what
it.
your grievance is.
Excising the situation from your life, like that is it. That's
That's
ultimate. That is the
And
ultimate.
the whole thing about like the pain.
And I know it's fresh. And I kind of sound like a dickhead telling you this right now, but
No,
like-
no. And trust me, bro. These are things that I've ran through the gamut of my own brain. But then just to kind of hear like what was really going on, what people really thought, like, you know what I mean, what they were doing, it's just kind of like, God damn, fam. Like in what I think equivocally to the part of like, damn, I really saw a future with you. Like, I really liked you, homegirl. Like, I was really about that. Like, you know what I mean? I think equivocally, I'm grieving this idea that this the part of the innocence of my care to people, right? Like, bro, I pursued this girl, you know what I mean? I laid down the fucking sauce, and I kept that same pressure the whole way through. Boom, 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 boom. But bro, if somebody don't really like you, they don't really like you, fam, right? And you have to be able to discern that. And my level of discernment was very low, and it led me to believe that I had a position in somebody's life like they had a position in mine. And so that little bit of naive ignorance definitely died with that one.
but I mean, but does that deter you from doing that in the future?
No, and you know what? She actually asked me that same question. And I was like, no. I know I will date. I know I will do all that. It'll probably be when like Elijah's a lot older. And it's just gonna suck for them. It's just gonna suck because I'm gonna have such a like high standard. You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be certain things I'm just not cool with. And I don't mind doing it at a later time because then I hate hearing girls like when they're with guys like, oh, I've never felt this way before. Like, bitch, you probably felt this way before like 2 years ago. Like, what are you talking about? Like, there's no life experience. There's no gap. Like, you know what I mean? But if I put 15 years or if I put 10 years in between me and the next person I really date, I get to look at baby girl across the table and say, honey, I haven't felt like this in a long time. And
Yeah, but I think I haven't felt like this in a long time and never feeling this before. I would say I would disagree with that. Like I do think that there's something out there that someone can do for you that you've never felt before.
That do not doubt. But I know if I put distance between me now and me 5 years from now, 10 years from now, the statement of I haven't felt this in a long time rings more true. It can be an absolute fact sitting here now saying that about myself 10 years from now. If I stick true to what I'm going to do.
Yeah, but now you're putting a time limit on when to
So
date.
yeah, I want to chime in too. So like I think you're correct, and it absolutely could play out that way, and it could serve you exactly as you anticipate, like the way you just described. I also think because human beings are so complicated and so nuanced and layered, and there's just so many aspects to what makes a person and what it eventually like cultivates a relationship. I think there's a time and place and a reality where you meet somebody that changes your perspective on the standards that you have. I think that there's your general philosophy and outlook that you seem to maintain like most of the time. And then I think there's people that call into question those predisposed like ideas that you've come to like conclude. And this isn't even a perfect example, but I had a situation like basically the lady that I'm with now, and we've been together for a long fucking time, but there was a period of time where we weren't technically together, and I was still like telling everybody I was single. And I mean, I was, because we weren't in a relationship, but for all intents and purposes, like I was basically in a relationship. And
it's just what we say when we're young, you know.
And I was trying to fucking ride the wave, and you know, like fucking have my cake and eat it, and it blew up in my face, and almost lost my fucking best friend out of it. And it was fucking wild. It was just like a wild thing. But fuck, I forgot how we got here. What were we talking about right before I started saying this?
The fact that you say you're gonna put distance between your relationships.
Like,
putting a time frame.
So all that shit happened, and my now lady / best friend like completely lost all like trust, because she believed unquestionably that she could trust her instinct, and something told her in her gut that something was off. I quelled her concerns and convinced her that nothing was wrong, and did so because I was justified feeling that I wasn't doing anything wrong. What ended up happening is she learned that she was correct, and she should have trusted herself, and she had an appropriate instinct, and she didn't listen and let me get the better of her. And so it really tarnished her outlook on things, and like her ability to trust and like maintain that kind of relationship, and like develop these new standards like you're describing. And for a while it was warranted, and I had to allow her the ability to process in that way, and I felt that I deserved like a certain level of mistrust because I had earned it. But there came a point where time has passed. We're now operating on a completely different level. We've decided, hey, we're going to give this thing like an actual shot, and now things keep coincidentally being kind of like leveraged against me, or like, you know, from my perspective, thrown in my face or what have you. And it got to a point where I said, look, like, I understand that I did wrong, and that I was in the wrong, and I was in the wrong for a very long time. We're now at a space where I feel like I have earned back some trust, and like I'm doing this thing with you. And if we're really going to do it, like we need to go all in. The same way that you were like, hey, if you're going to do this with me, like you need to go fucking both feet in, like we need to really do it. I said, I need that from you. Like, I understand that I lost it and we're working on it, but like the only way that this is going to work is if you trust me now. And it's a really big fucking thing to ask. And part of me felt guilty for asking, but part of me knew that it was necessary or it wasn't going to work. I was like, dude, if you don't give me back the space to like operate in a way that I feel like allows me to be like an autonomous human being and make my own decisions and determine how I really feel about things, it's never going to work. Like, you can't hold somebody hostage in a relationship, and like you can't just like keep somebody in a box and like they're never going to do anything. It's like I need the ability to go push the envelope and put myself in a situation where I learn for myself what I really value and like what I really, really care about. And it took a lot of conversations and a long time to get there, but like she finally met me there, and like things have been fucking excellent ever since, because like she gave me that. So I think
he does genuinely value his relationship, which is coming from somebody that has known Gabe from when he was young and was the way that he was to where he is now.
And I hear what you guys are saying. But there is nothing but me that's putting this idea down. And I say 5-10 years, whatever. I only throw these times out because I'm looking at what I need to do for myself over a time range, right? Like,
yeah.
And I know this is going to be a long game, right? And the thing is the reason, and a part of my grief is understanding like everything she did, everything that I did in any relationship I was ever in. And I remember, Cisco, we've talked about this a lot, is I don't blame people for what they do. I ain't worried about what you do, honey. Right? What you did is on you, fam. That's your karma. You hold it. I'm worried about what I'm doing. And so in my grief, I'm just learning, like, what did I do wrong? Right? Like, what could I have done better? Right? Fair enough. And learning that this idea that I had, this youthful ignorance that I led love with, it wasn't the time for it, right? And just take time. Make sure that you know how to discern. And when my level of discernment gets a little bit better and I can kind of start seeing through some of this shit again, maybe I might take a gamble, right? But it's purely off of saying like just patience with myself with it.
Yeah, and I don't think like I'm not opposed to that idea at all. I don't really have a hang up on the idea that there's like a length of time that you feel is appropriate to like, try to like strive to meet. Like that doesn't strike me as odd or incorrect or any of that. I think it's just important to realize that like despite how it feels because it's so fresh, that should there come a time when your instinct is to maybe be a little bit more lenient with like some of the harshness that you're like looking through a lens in, that it's not necessarily always equal to naivety. It's not always that you're just being fucking aloof and young and dumb and in love. You know what I mean? Like that you have to give yourself the grace and credit to know that like you have given ample thought and ample logic applied to situations. And exactly like you said, I think the thing is not just your ability to discern, but more so your confidence in your ability to discern. It's like the more good you feel about your ability to, the more grace you'll allow a situation like that and give somebody the benefit of the doubt and so on and so forth.
And I absolutely think that I think that you should be alone for a little while, like at least, bro. Because let me tell you,
some friends.
I
forgot I was live. My bad.
No. I mean,
listen, all I'm saying
it's true.
is
It is true. Though, hold on, and this is what I'll say, right? Because we do have a group of friends, and in our group of friends, we have those that have gone from relationship to relationship. Myself being one of them, right? We have one gentleman in our group of friends who's been single for like 10 years, bro. And he's one of the happiest cats that I know, making his money, doing his thing, blah, 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 blah. There's another one who just recently like left one relationship to get into another relationship. He's extremely happy. The other one's extremely happy. It's just do it at your own pace. But what I would recommend based off of what I've gone through is for sure be by yourself for a while, and just take care of take care of your shit. But like grow as a human being and handle your shit. And when you feel comfortable, like actually you'll never know when you're ready. Like there's not a day that you're gonna look in the mirror and be like, I'm ready to start dating again today. Like somebody's just gonna come into your life and they're gonna be fucking incredible, and you're gonna be like, holy fuck, I told myself that I was gonna wait for a long time. And then there's just something about this person. There's a connection with this person, something along those lines that you're gonna be like, wow, this is absolutely incredible. But I'm not saying it's going to happen in 6 months. Allow yourself the time to grow. But, once you...
Or if I get a sugar mama and, she says, you got to dress up as Batman, I'm going to look at myself in the mirror and say...
Is it worth $5,000?
Bitch, we're Batman in this motherfucker.
But for real, like delete the fucking dating apps on your shit. And that was the thing when we had a conversation about this young lady that put you in the position that you're in right now. What I was so excited about for you was that you met this person like genuinely out and about. Like people don't do that shit anymore. And not saying that dating apps, like people can't find love on dating apps and shit like that. But like what happened to that old school going out to a bar or like, going to the park or something and running into somebody and having a genuine conversation with them, like that doesn't exist anymore. So what I would tell you is if you're going to do it again, do it to that point of being genuine and like meeting somebody like that. Get fucking Tinder and Bumble and Hinge off of your fucking phone. If you're going to get laid, you'll get laid naturally.
I'm not in there.
So I did want to ask you another question because it's something that just as we were talking about all this, like I just started thinking about, and I'm curious if you relate with just like what you've been going through since it's been so recent. I think part of what's so difficult and frustrating and difficult to deal with regard to grief is like things that I don't realize that it's calling into question. And like you described, like, having an idea, like I really thought this was going to work out. And then finding out after the fact that like, oh, like I thought it was being portrayed as this, but meanwhile, in retrospect, this was happening on the side. And it really puts into perspective, like that your previously established perception was completely inaccurate. And I think for me, what that does is it calls into question, like my ability to discern, my intelligence, like calls into question my character. And so it's almost like a defensive reaction that I have. And it's almost like I feel even worse about it. It's like not only did it not work out between me and this person and it's just unfortunate circumstances, but I feel like a complete idiot that just like didn't realize I had my head in the jaws of a lion and just like was completely oblivious. It's something that really fucks with me. It's something that really like, this is a really, really old and small scale example, but I think it illustrates the point. Me and I won't throw her under the bus, but me and one of my first girlfriends from high school, Save, you know exactly who I'm talking about. She was
I just got thick up in here.
It was a Egyptian girl we went to high school with, and I was infatuated with this girl. Like, I think it was 9th grade. We didn't know each other, hung out in different circles, friends, and I would just see her from across the quad, and we would just be giving each other eyes. And I was like, I don't know who this girl is, but like, I need to meet her, talk to her, figure something out. And she was dating some guy at the time. And then at some point, we'd been kind of like looking at each other or whatever. And one of her friends was like, so-and-so broke up with so-and-so, and her and her boyfriend broke up. And I was like, oh, this is my in right here. Like, it's as an open invitation. So I started dating her. Everything's good. She's like got the biggest, prettiest brown fucking eyes, and I'm just like dumb fucking sprung over this girl. And throughout this very like short 3-month relationship, I would have like friends or like peers around me telling me about all this shit that was going down, shit that she was doing, shit, dudes that she was talking to at parties, drugs that she was taking at the, and at the time I wasn't fucking doing any of that shit. And I really fucking liked her, and it would always result in me having a conversation with her and like basically asking her, hey, is this true? And she would look me right dead in my fucking eyes, and she would bat her big brown eyes, bro, and she would just be like, no, of course not. And I'd fucking stone-faced believed her every single time. And then when it finally ended, I finally like got the scoop on what the fuck was really cracking, and I was like, I'm the dumbest fucking person in the world, bro. Like, it's astronomical how fucking insane I was. Just like, and it was something that I learned about myself too. Like, I was a real sucker for a pretty face and a fucking smile. Like, it was literally so easy. And she just made my fucking my body would tingle, my knees would shake and shit. I would just be like, this girl could say literally whatever she wanted. But it was crazy. And it was something that like, I don't think I realized at the time, but I think like after some time had passed, I felt really dumb for it. And I felt really like, how could I fucking let that happen? Like, how was I so clueless as to like what was going on? Like, how am I that bad at judging character? Like, am I that like unaware of my surroundings? Like, do I not know how to like get through fucking life? Like, am I just going to be taken advantage of no matter where I go? Like, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to buy a fucking car or something, and it's like all these pent up insecurities I have, and it's like I don't know how to navigate a conversation because I just feel like I'm so inadequate across the board. And so, yeah, one, I wonder if that's something you relate to, and two, I think it's just an important thing to touch on with regard to like that process of grief, where it's like, not only did you suffer a huge loss, but suddenly like your entire world just got flipped upside down, and like you don't know what's fucking left is right and black is white, and you're just like, how I can't even rely on my fucking 5 senses to like inform my reality. Like, and I think that puts you in a very weird state of limbo where you're just like, I don't fucking know what's happening. I'm just floating through life.
Yeah, dude, there's a really weird loss of the senses, I think, when one becomes infatuated, in love, whatever. Like, you lose like your perception of reality becomes very, very obscure.
All the gray matter.
Right. And I mean, these things are amplified sometimes. The way they look, the way they smell, the way they talk, the way their skin feels is just amplified by the fucking millisecond. And then to realize like this isn't your person, right? I think does play, I don't know how it is for women, but I know for men, it does call into 9 times out of 10 will call into question, our ability to like, do I know friend from foe? Like, do I know a friend from foe? Like, do I know somebody who is purposefully trying to deceive me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, could I even protect a tribe? Could I even protect myself? How much of a man am I? If this woman, right? Let's be real fucking real. Let's be real. Hey, because I love pussy. Okay, I love nice, warm, wet pussy that women have. So I'm going to speak to that effect. Okay. So
You speak for all of us when you say that. I'm just saying.
I think I speak for the table here. Okay, so how have I allowed this woman to deceive me?
Well,
You know
that's
what I
it.
mean?
That's it right there. Literally what you just said. Literally what you just said is the reason why we are so easily deceived.
Because it's a woman.
No, because of pussy.
Oh yeah.
That's what he said.
I ain't found a pussy nowhere else.
Well, hey, let me tell you, it's 2023.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Every pussy I've ever found has been attached to a woman. Okay.
But okay, well, if that's what you're saying, then yes, absolutely, I agree with you. That is the reason why we are deceived so easily. Well, I wouldn't say that we're deceived. It would just be blinded.
Deceived.
I would say the blind. I would say it's more due to being blind.
Deceived.
Judgment be clouded.
Yeah, your judgment is extremely clouded.
Deceived. I look at it like this. Is I think that there's always because I even say it in this, this life I had hoped for and all this stuff. There's always a mild expectation that you throw on your partner for for who they are and what they'll be. There's always this expectation. I think a part of that expectation is what we want from our partner, but it's also how they pitch their sell. Oh, I'm this type of woman. I'm this type of girl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm this type of. And though it may be partially true, right? We fall into this idea of, well, it's absolutely true. Because it could be partially true. But generally when we trust, man or female, if we're trusting you all the way, right? And I'm very that way. And so going through these moments when that is broken, it makes me say, damn, how can I fucking trust anyone? How can I even trust myself if I trusted this person with my trust and they broke it? It becomes a sick fucking riddle of who's to blame. And at the end of the day, I blame myself for falling for deceptions, for not vetting these people enough. And when I begin to question my own when I begin to question my own intelligence, I have to remember that is literally the play of the deceiver. That is what they want you to do. They want you to question your own intelligence. They want you to question your ability to see between truth and falsehood. They're trying to blur the line. You get what I'm saying? And I got to remember that is just what they did. That was just what they were doing, and it took an effect. And just I like bro, it's like getting rocked like really hard in the head, and you just kind of got to shake it off. Your knees get a little wobbly, and Cisco knows. Like, trust me, this is definitely not the first time I've ever been played. So, and definitely with people who mattered way more to me in my life. So it's a continuous battle of saying, make sure you vet these people, make sure they're properly vouched for. I'm not stupid. They're just good liars.
Well, that's why. I mean, I think we chatted about it in another podcast once when I was like, if you're gonna date, bro, now at this day and age, like you have to date long and thought out, and because when we do our courting as men, right, like we're gonna go above and beyond sometimes and do certain things that maybe we wouldn't do like 5 years down the line. So we're putting on a persona. I would say there might be a thing or two that we do that we wouldn't think about doing 5 years down the line. And it's like we're putting on a persona in order to gain the attraction of this person. So it's also being reciprocated back to us to gain attraction. So like
it's an interesting balance between doing what is necessary to attract another person and reconciling that with like being true to who you are. Because it's like going in for an interview, right? It's like you're always going to put on your best show when you're going to an interview. You're not necessarily being disingenuous, but you're like doing the song and dance that you know you have to do that's fit for this environment.
Suit, all this shit, yeah.
And so I think that's where it gets kind of like gray and like complicated is like discerning whether somebody's behavior is truly like deliberately malicious or if it's just them doing what they think they need to do and like it just not unraveling that way because it's not true to like it's not truly aligned with their personality. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying too. And of course, case by case, and in some cases there are true just malicious deceivers and people that just are like less empathic and don't really narcissistic and don't really like care if anybody's impacted, so long as they figured out what they want out of a situation. And if it's, I don't want this anymore, then so be it. And they're fine. I think that definitely exists, but I think more often than not, it's situations where people are just navigating through life and like figuring shit as they go and like think that they feel one way and ends up not being the case, or maybe they thought it was. And today it's just like struck differently. It's just like people that truly happen to love the shit out of each other, but just like grow into different like paths. Like, I mean, those are all very real fucking things. And like, I think it's something that I really deliberately tried to keep putting into practice, is like not speaking about things deterministically, like not thinking about philosophies that I'm like pondering as if they're conclusive and unquestionable. And I think it's really easy to filter things out when you feel so strongly. It's so easy to be convicted. And I think it's a dangerous thing to be, because it's so fucking complex, dude. Like there's so much to it. Something that I think that I've kind of like referred back to as a theme, you know, on several occasions, and something that I've talked to Save about, and something that I talk to my lady about frequently, because she has a habit of like putting all her eggs in somebody's basket. And like when she's somebody's friend, she gives every part of herself to that person. And it's really heartbreaking when she doesn't get that back. And I understand the feeling, but I tell her like, it's a big ask. Like you put so much that like, of course you're not getting that back. Like that's not how most people operate. And so something that I've tried to instill in her and that I like really keep in my head is that not everybody is everything for everybody. And like, not every friend has to be a good friend on all fronts, all across the board, in all angles. And I have multiple friends now that like serve different purposes. And some of my friends are great conversationalists, but like, I don't like to be around particularly. You know, some of my friends are phenomenal people to go eat with or like go fucking kick it with, but like are not people that I would ever podcast with. Like some people are hilarious people that have my sense of humor and can get me to laugh for 3 hours, but I would never bring around my girlfriend. And some people are like, well, that's not a friend. And I'm like, well, you say that, but it's like, I have a friend that I've had that happen with that I'm like, this person can't be a good friend. That's a bad person. And then I don't see them for a couple of years. We get around each other and immediately start cracking each other up. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Why do I hold no ill feelings? Why don't I have a grudge about it? It's like, well, I feel bad about it when I think about it as a concept, but when I'm physically in the presence of this person's energy, I feel good. And so it just taught me to compartmentalize certain relationships where I'm like, this person is not the person that I'm going to like bring to my house for this purpose, but is the person that I'll shoot the shit comedy wise with and like play a fucking game with. And so it's really, really interesting. And I think it's difficult to do. And not everybody has the ability to do that kind of thing. But I'm very like, you know, someone's like, why are you friends with this guy? He has a problem with a lot of people. Like I've never been overtly wronged by this person. And he's never had a problem with me. And unless like something is like so treacherous or like so detrimental that like, I think it's like not something I want to engage in or be around. And like, I kind of give people their fucking, like their grace and just allow them to like do what they do the way that they do it. And it's, if that means that it's, you know, they're not necessarily the appropriate party in every single aspect of my life, then like, I just acknowledge it for what it is. And I don't think that's for everybody, but it's a really important lesson that I've learned that I really try to remember. It's like, not everybody is everything for everybody. And I think that's really fucking important. And like, some people serve a very specific purpose for a very brief period of time in your life. And like, that's totally okay. And it's all information and it all guides where you need to be and where you're going to end up. And like, that's the most useful, invaluable thing you can garnish from this life, that you can fucking gather. Like, so I, you know, at the end of the day, it sounds kind of like, oh, like, you know, just like everything is what it's meant to be. I don't even really believe that. I just think that everything is information. And information is power. And I think you can't do wrong with that. And I think it can be dangerous. And I don't think everybody knows how to wield it. perfectly every time. So it takes some discipline and some like fucking course correction and some people around you to like really keep you on track. But I think when you get to a point where enough time and space has passed, it's important to leverage those things and to be like, this has informed me now, and I'm only going to operate better for it. Whether that makes me like more scrutinizing when I'm looking at the like characteristics of a relationship, or it's that I know better now what I truly value and what matters to me and what I want out of a relationship. I mean, like he's saying, like we have a friend that, you know, relationship to relationship, finally just got out of one. He's been in relationships since a teenager. And so he's having a whole existential crisis. Like, this guy doesn't know what fucking movies he likes. He doesn't know what music he listens to. He doesn't know what the fuck he would do with his spare time, what hobbies nothing. Everything that he did was attached to this person. And he's just like fucking lost floating through the universe now. And he's like, it's the scariest feeling in the world. And I was like, I get that. But also, it's got to be the most exciting time in your fucking life. Like, you get to go figure all that shit out right now. Like, go figure out what you're into. Go see what makes you laugh. Go see what makes you, what fills you up.
And that's how I felt. There was a lot of the decision making that I was doing for my own life. There was a lot of stuff like it was, you know, with connected to her. And I think that's what also gave so much power to the idea of this life that we were building, because these discussions were happening. And, you know, and you were really right when you were saying like everybody isn't everything for everyone, right? And sometimes somebody can be everything for you at a time. They can be everything and anything you could have ever asked for, but only for a time.
But there's a reason behind it.
There's a purpose. And I'm in the part of my grieving now. And especially even after the conversation last night, I think it helped me realize I think I'm starting to stumble into what her purpose was in my life. Right. And and you know, I'm trying to come to this conclusion, and I don't want it to be malicious. Because I don't think anyone is just malicious by nature. You know what I mean? Or just a complete deceiver. I have to believe, bro, like some of it was real. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be that guy where it's like, it was just all fake. You know, I'm not that guy. I mean, if she flew out here, listen, the dick can't be that good. It can't be.
Hey, I'll tell you, it is.
My guy.
Oh,
you heard that? Bitches, get at me. OnlyFans.
Korpsx.
But if she was flying out here, I have to believe that she actually liked me a little bit. You know what I mean? So
will that make you feel better?
Not really. Like, you know what I mean? But it helps me believe it. So then it helps. Okay, so it's like, okay, if she actually liked me, we went through these things. You know, she did. You know, she made her choices. So what is the purpose of all of this happening? Because the Matrix, bro, I say it all the time. Morpheus says everything happened exactly as it was meant to. Because if it didn't, we'd be dead. So everything's happened exactly as it was supposed to transpire. And what is God telling me? What is he trying to show me right now? Like, you know what I mean? And so I take refuge in prayer.
Hey, I mean, by all means, brother. But, you know, the fact that it's funny because we actually had that conversation of what is a friend on this podcast before. Mm-hmm. And, you know, Gabe kind of hit the nail on the head. And I mean, Korpsx, even you said it, right? Like, you have friends for different occasions, friends that you go out to the bar with, friends that you go out to here with, and, you know, work friends and things like that. So just knowing that you have that, and knowing that those friends can be there for that amount of time, right? That length of time. You know, I mean, you can kind of put this into that perspective as well. This could be your portion of being in Florida, and you never go back to Florida.
I think that's what it is.
You just never go back to. Now you get a job in fucking New Jersey or something. You know what I mean?
Well, there is something that I want to drop maybe on the next podcast, but I got some announcements. I got a lot of news. And I think you guys kind of see why I've been a little bit of a wreck the past 2 weeks, but I'm getting it together, dude.
Shit, dog. Drop a little spoiler real quick. If you got a bunch, drop one. Give me a little gem before we close out.
No,
Oh,
No.
you gonna make me wait, dog?
It'll make you wait to the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
I never got into Dragon Ball Z.
Dude, you're missing out on life. You're missing out on a chunk of life. How dare you?
It's not something I could get into. I just couldn't get into it.
I want to say this before we sign out. Thank you guys for your guys' energy. And thank you so much, Kalstradamus, my guy, the purveyor of nonsense.
My pleasure.
Thank you for coming on to the show and being vulnerable, brother, with us. Man. And I really enjoyed our conversation. And I know to say that it hurts brings no solace, but I know. You know, I know.
I know, man. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate being welcomed on the podcast. I'm happy to come chop it up anytime, man. It's I more than most things really enjoyed just having a good conversation. I really enjoy it. I like talking to people. I like listening to different ideas, and I like exploring things that I haven't quite figured out how I feel about myself. So I'm happy to do it. And I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, we're gonna get you on again with the three of us. Because Damo and I like to go at Damo a little hard sometimes because he's a little bit on the younger generation side. So it'd be nice to get your take on conversations that we have with him and that him and I go through, and even on something that like Korpsx and I have disagreed on certain things before. Even delving into like the fact that Korpsx is a Freemason, things of that nature. Would be fun to do with you as well. So as long as you're definitely open to being back, we would definitely love to have you back on. And this is episode 9 now?
Episode 9.
Damn, so we're on episode 10, bro. Who would have thought we would have made it to episode 10 next week? That's crazy.
Who would have thought? Who would have thunk it?
So in closing, what we normally do, Kaz, if you want to shout out your socials again, let everybody know what you're working on, what can they expect from you in this upcoming year?
Not shit. Kalstradamus everywhere. I don't know. I'll be randomly dropping music sometimes, but I won't be telling people. So you might see something. I don't know. Maybe not.
But you're
I got 2
albums
done. But yeah, Kalstradamus on Instagram, on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, wherever the fuck you listen to music and all that shit. YouTube, fucking finally got the Kalstradamus YouTube. Ain't shit on there though, but you know what I'm saying? I'm around.
Go hit him with a subscription though, just in case he does decide to drop something.
Yeah, man. But I'll be back on here. I'll let y'all motherfuckers know. Don't trip.
All right. Appreciate it. You can find me at Save Wonder on all platforms except for Twitter. I'm thinking I might come back on Twitter, bro. I might make a
come
Twitter
back. Come back and let's act a fool, bro.
Canceled. I appreciate you guys. Kaz, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I appreciate that you're my brother. I love you. Korpsx, as always. To my community, your community, the ones who are always here listening, to the listeners that go on. I listen to our podcast through iTunes or through Apple Podcasts. So I don't know what everybody else listens on, but to the listeners at home or people that come back on YouTube or on my streams to rewatch the podcast, I appreciate it. This has been another episode of The Usual Tuesdays for me. So as always, you guys stay healthy, stay happy. I love you guys and keep smiling.
Peace.
Oh shit, my guy, I love you. I always love your outros. Your host, Big Korpsx, y'all know the deal. KORPSX, Instagram, Twitter, korpscollection.com. Y'all know the drill.
We need some new merch, is what I'm saying.
Dude, I got a lot of designs. I do want to start signing out with something that I think people can always go with, and this one has always gotten me through tough times, and it's from the Bible. It's Isaiah 6:8, and it says, "For the Lord asks, for whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And I said, here am I, send me." So one day at a time, people. Send me, though. I'll take care of it. Usual Tuesday podcast. Stay motivated out there, you motherfuckers.
Peace. Love y'all. Y'all stay up.
All right, y'all. Love y'all.
All right. Love y'all, bro.
Peace.